Hi, and welcome to Cabinet Maker Profit System podcast. My name is Dominic Rubino, and today's guest is Fyfe Barraclough. We're going to be talking about I never take a day off, so what? So if you've ever been in that situation where you never take a day off, but you're also kind of proud of it, we got to talk because we need you to take a day off every once in a while. Fyfe and I are going to be talking about some pretty important things here. When you talk about the mindset and the systems of running a successful business, we want you to take advantage of that. So stay tuned here. Hey, we've already recorded the episode, so I know that there's a couple of takeaways that I want you to watch out for. Let me just put my glasses on. One of them is around time management. And so if you've got some time management questions or issues, or you're just trying to find ways to be better managed for your time, go to the YouTube channel for Cabinet Maker Profit System. There are 52 weeks of time management tips just for casework, for mill workers, for cabinet makers, just for us. So go ahead and start to subscribe so you get them every week as they go live. And then the other one here is if you want the blueprint for how a business gets turned around, you'll hear Fyfe and I talking about that a little bit here. If you want our version, the coach's version of what's going on in the back of our mind as we're working with you, the strong, powerful business owner who's being beset on all sides by people trying to take your time, but you still want to grow the business, have a look at the flow chart. It's actually the decision-making tree that we use when we are showing a business owner how to turn things around. For either of those, just text me 315-903-7853. Let's get to the show. Mr. Fyfe Barraclough, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. I mean, and by the way, pretty unique name.
Yes. Yeah. Fyfe was my grandmother's maiden name. So it's a Scottish last name, and my mom wanted to keep it in the family.
Yeah, well, they did. Here it is. It's not going anywhere. Speaking of unique names, I had James Hatfield on here a couple weeks ago of the famous Hatfield and McCoys.
I'm lost. I don't know.
You don't know the Hatfield and McCoys? It's a famous American, like not vendetta. What is it? Like they just had a big beef between those two families for years.
Oh,
in the mountains of Kentucky, I think it was.
Okay.
It started when somebody stole a pig. And then they made a movie, and yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, we get the coolest names here. But instead of doing this show all about genealogy, why don't I ask the big question? Fyfe Barraclough, who the heck are you? And by the way, how is it that you come to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
Yeah, well, super excited to chat with you today. I had my doorway into entrepreneurship back in my 20s. So after university, got into College Pro Painters, student painting program.
Yeah.
And that just seemed to open a whole new world to me of running a business. And we were talking just before I jumped on today. A bunch of my really close friends came from that. So I was just at a wedding.
Yeah.
So that was my entryway into trades and home services and just business in general. And did that for a couple of years. And when it was looking like I wanted to shift, wasn't sure what was going to be next.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was retiring, but getting into executive coaching at that time, and suggested I take on checking out one of the courses.
Right.
And almost said no because it was for my dad, but trusted him enough to say yes, and jumped into an executive coaching program, which just felt like coming home. It was just like, wow, this is cool. Like, this is very different. I didn't know this existed.
Right.
And that kind of opened up coaching. So it was like entrepreneurship and coaching. And then had an HVAC cleaning business for about 7 years with a business partner that we ended up selling.
Right.
So just kind of mirroring these two sides of me. And that's kind of where I'm at today, is working with business owners in a coaching space.
It's interesting that you're in the trades, even though you started in university at College Pro.
Yeah.
Right. I think most people think that, and even I get caught into thinking that if I went to university, what am I doing going into the trades? But it's the greatest. It is the greatest thing in the world.
It's awesome. Yeah. And I love the guys I get to work with. And there's been a large number of guys that I've worked with that had a university education background, and maybe they've like stepped into a family business or have had a different entryway into the trades, which is cool.
Yeah. We just interviewed somebody here named Fitz. He's got a landscaping company called Fitzgerald's, but he was a banker. And he
Really?
started mowing lawns on the side because one of his clients had a number of properties that they needed the lawns mowed. And he thought, well, I'll keep my kids busy. Somebody who's just a residential real estate investor. And so he started with that. And then he turned into a massive landscaping company, which he then went and sold to his employees. So,
Super cool.
we all think that, not we all think that too often people think that people end up in the trades, or they bump into the trades, or they back into it, as opposed to going at it on purpose, because it's a great business. The margins are there. There's lots of chances to reinvent yourself, right? Every job I do, I can reinvent my pricing, my processes. I'm not locked into pricing with 3-year forward contracts. You just reinvent yourself every job. And as long as you take advantage of that, you can you can improve your business.
And with the way the world's changing with AI and the disruption that's going to be happening, I think it's even more so becoming such a great place to be.
Real humans doing real work. I think people might just hire contractors just to see that happen.
Yeah.
As opposed to AI giving you the answer to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, listen, you and I are going to be talking about something that you and I have had a couple of pre-conversations here, but it's kind of a surprising title that people may not have ever expected to see on the show. I never take a day off. So what? And I laugh at that title because I took yesterday off to go fishing. It was a Tuesday. Yeah.
How did that feel?
What felt weird is there's no traffic on the road going out to where we normally go fishing. And I'm used to there being, it probably would have taken an extra 40 minutes for that 3-hour drive. And we just zoomed out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt great, by the way. It felt like I got an extra weekend in, even though it was just a random Tuesday.
Yeah. Which is awesome because I don't know, I have moments where I'm able to take a day off, or I had an afternoon that was quiet and it felt weird to take that time off.
So interesting you say that. I wasn't able to take that time off. I booked it and worked towards it. And there's something we talk about in time management a lot, is that if I don't manage my time, everybody else will manage my time for me. And so this Tuesday trip has been booked for a long time. And I had to get my team not to book me. We had people say, "Oh, can you spend a few minutes before you leave?" I'm like, I'm leaving at 5:45. There's no use talking to me at that hour. It's not going to be coherent sentences. It's barely going to be one of those now. And then I didn't get home until 9, but it had to be planned so I could take that day.
Yeah. Yeah. That proactive blocking of the calendar, like if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't happen, is often what happens for me, and I think for a lot of probably the listeners as well.
I hope so. I hope the listeners are doing that. If it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. Becoming I call it becoming a slave to the calendar, but please understand, I'm the one that runs the calendar. I run my calendar, and I'm a slave to myself and my goals and ambitions and the things that we need to accomplish in this business. Yeah.
Yeah. I find there's often a swing from no calendar, not using it at all, to like hyper focused, so dialed in, and everything like minute detail. And then there's a little bit of a swing back where there's like a little bit of white space on there for buffer zone. And like, it's always swinging. Like I don't think it ever finds a center point. But like noticing where you're at on that spectrum, I think is really healthy.
Yeah. We could keep going on the time management topic, and obviously, especially coming from the student painting background that both you and I had, that's one of the places that I learned about it really early, because there's only so much time in the day and I have to prioritize what gets done by who, when. But yeah, listen, time management, I always joke, it's like brushing your dog. You're never really done.
It depends on what kind of dog you have.
Yeah, right. You don't have one of those hairless, sad, shivering chihuahuas, do you?
No, we don't have a dog, but grew up with dogs, and it's so true. Like anytime I go for a family dinner, somebody gets a dog hair in their meal somehow. My mom's gonna kill me if she hears this, but it's
always,
it just happens. It's just, yeah,
it just happens.
Yeah.
Well, listen, let's get into this topic because we talk about I never take a day off, so what? But lead me into it and tell us even how we backed into that particular topic for today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like everybody goes through these stages of building their business.
Mm,
And at the start, there's a lot of initial momentum and inertia to get it to a good place. And there's a lot of hustle, there's a lot of grit that like we need to push and
mm,
invest in the business to get it to where we want it to be. And it might not be there yet, but like in that direction. And it's awesome. Like you need that level of work ethic. But I think at some point it becomes a bit of a trap,
mm,
and it can become just a default state of like, this is just how the business is. And starting to look at, okay, I made it this far. What's the next level? What do I have to shift to maybe shift out of that mode? And where is that identity with how I'm working, maybe keeping me stuck in a way?
yeah, yeah. I You just said what is the next level, and the first thing that went into my mind is why is the next level.
Mm,
And by the way, I agree with you. What's the next level? If you I don't know if you've ever used an analogy like this, but you think about growth. Like when somebody says, I want to get to the next level, I see an S curve in my mind. And usually we look at an S curve from the side. You see the S, right? But imagine you were behind the S and you're trying to see up the incline and over the top of the hill. The problem is the hill can be so steep, I can't see over the top. And that's why why business owners use people like us, because we've seen over the hill. We've had a peak. We've come back and said, hey, listen, just so you know, there's a big pothole at the top and it's surrounded by broken glass. We're going to have to go around that, but it's good that we know right now. And so you just have to tell people like they just can't see over that next level. And by the way, I can't see over my next level either. And so I have guidance, I have mentors, or I, do what I need to do to find out everything I can about that next level so I can get there as quickly as possible.
well, and I think, I mean, there's that transition curve. It's the pothole at the top, but I think also there's a downslope too sometimes as you reach
Mm-hmm.
that next level. And it's like it's that roller coaster that is entrepreneurship. So I don't think there's ever a top.
Yeah.
But often when we're at the bottom, we see like that one kind of next level, and we assume that that will be the top, and then we get down and on the other
Oh,
side,
a
and then there's
false
another
peak.
one.
Yeah, that's a
False
yeah.
peaks, yeah,
In hiking, we call that a false peak. You think you're at the top, and you realize, yeah, we're not even quarter of the way.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when people say to you, "I never take a day off," so what? What's really happening? What's your observation of what's going on in the background?
I mean, there's probably a lot of things happening, um, but one of them is they're trying to do too much. They're wearing too many hats.
Mm,
There's something keeping them stuck in the way the business is running, and often it's them being the bottleneck, both in probably tasks that they're doing, but also um, decision making,
mm,
and starting to look at where are people the bottleneck, how is that showing up, and identifying some of that. But I think another part of this too, which we might get into, is what's keeping people stuck in that bottleneck state outside of just the, oh, I should delegate, because that is a big part of it too.
yeah. What is keeping people stuck?
So in my personal experience, most people know they should start to delegate. If you like, when you start to talk to them, they're like, I know I should probably hand this thing off, or I should probably hire this person and that'll open up some of my time for that thing.
Right.
So I don't think it's as much of a knowledge gap as it is an execution gap. And I think some of the stuckness comes from what got us here won't get us there. So like the ability to let go. So what got you to the first stage was having really tight control over doing everything and being
Yeah.
the expert and being the person doing the execution, which is great. But now you have to let go and let somebody else do it. And it's not so much not knowing that they should delegate, it's fear of letting go of control and what might happen when they let go of control. And that
Right.
might increase some anxiety because that person might make a mistake. And what does that mean for my reputation? So like this whole other host of things starts to pop up often as we start to look at delegating, I think.
Yeah. I find it hard for people to think about delegating, and that whole office manager, when do I get an office manager conversation? I've got companies that are working with myself and my coaches that are like 10 million a year in sales and don't have an established office manager.
Really?
But they're also wondering why things are falling through the cracks, why they can't track numbers. They want to track numbers, but they're not able to. And one of the reasons is they don't have an EA,
Yeah.
somebody whose job it is. Think of it as a whole bunch of strings hanging from the ceiling, just little tiny threads. And I'm trying to weave all those together into, I don't know, just keep the analogy going, a sweater or a rug or something. Well, I don't have time to do that. I need somebody to go gather all of those pieces of string together and put it on one sheet, all the data pieces hanging off those on one sheet, so I can just see it and I say, okay, this is what we're going to do first. This is what we're going to ignore. This one's great. Leave that number alone. Don't touch it. Don't change anything. We're doing great. But having that ability, it like that fast to just see it is it's one of those things that's very difficult to explain. But I can say this, that once somebody has an office manager, they don't let them, they don't say we're going back to no office manager.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the best answer.
The genie does not go back in the bottle.
Yeah, maybe that's the best answer. Once somebody gets an office manager and starts using that person well, they never go away from it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about delegation and people's fear or resistance to delegating. What else do you find? Or, how does that show up? And then what's the impact to people?
Yeah. So I'll lean into a bit of what I do with a lot of clients. So I got certified as a mental fitness coach, and that's an angle that I kind of bring into some of the coaching. And the basic fundamental of mental fitness is we have a survivor brain and we have like a thriving brain. And when we're in that survival mode, we're motivated by negative emotions and like fear, guilt, scarcity. Think of it like Darth Vader. You're operating from like a Darth Vader mode, and not necessarily like you're out to kill people, but like
I was going to say complete with breathing and killing people.
Yeah. But more so that like you're operating from a place of fear and scarcity and like survivor brain. The flip side of that is more of like Jedi, like calm, collected, wise, moving from empathy. You have that better access to like leadership decision making. So our brains kind of operate in these two states, and there are archetypal ways that we operate in that saboteur state.
Wow. Archetypal ways we operate in that saboteur state. So you mean there's classic ways that we operate in that.
Yeah. So one archetype or classic way is, we kind of called it already, the controller. And that's there's an anxiety-based need to take charge and control situations. And a lot of entrepreneurs, leaders tend to have that tendency where they like to be in control. Like that's why they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
But then you over-index on it. You do it too much and it becomes your Achilles heel. So in that delegation statement, like that ability to control worked really well. And then now it's not working because we're not able to delegate because we're trying to control too much. So there's kind of like
comes a limit. There comes a limit, right? One of the things we talk about in cabinetry is that, let's talk about a residential kitchen cabinet maker. A project manager at a residential shop can really get about 2 million in product hung on the walls in a year. And that's a pretty rough number because it depends on the value of the cabinets and the wood and the cabinet. There's a bunch of variables, but there's just a certain amount that one PM can handle. Just like there's a certain amount that an edge bander can produce, but there's a certain amount that as a controller, if I follow your logic about this archetype, about this classic character, there's only a certain size of business they can get to before that stops working. It's actually probably starts to eat itself.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you're asking about like the impact of it. And that's what starts to happen is, as you control more, as you start to bring on A players, they start to feel micromanaged and they start to resist and resent that. And you might lose some key players because you're too controlling. So there's like there's a subverted like inherent strength in being that kind of person that can jump in and can take control, but it's noticing when you shift from like the Jedi strength of it to like the Darth Vader, like I'm too anxious. I need to have my hands on this thing.
Yeah.
And I just hired somebody who's awesome at it, but I'm not willing to like hand that off or let them make that mistake potentially.
Hmm. Interesting.
Um, so that's one thing that I often see, but there's other ones too, like um, the avoider is another kind of classic one that
Hmm.
shows up.
The avoider.
Yeah, which is, I mean, procrastination in its essence,
Right.
but often it shows up in procrastinating on dealing with certain tasks or activities in the business. So maybe you're not a numbers person and you avoid looking at your numbers, even though you know you should. You're just kind of avoid it, or it might be a conflict with an employee. You know
Mm-hmm.
you need to address something, but there's a lot of anxiety or stress that comes with approaching that conversation, and that tendency is great short term because you don't have to deal with it. So you don't have to deal with the stress that comes up with dealing with it, but then it tends to blow up in your face down the road because you're not actually addressing the thing.
Yeah. Hey, are you curious about ways to develop your foreman and make him or her into the best leader that your floor or install crew could ever have? Well, we've got something here for you. It's called the Foreman Development Self-Assessment and Career Planning Tool. It is a fantastic tool. It's being used by cabinet and millwork shops right now, and you can see it as well. Just send me a text message. My cell phone number is 315-903-7853, and just say Foreman Tool, and then I'll know which one to send you. Yeah, I
Um,
think we all inherently, like inside, we all know what we're avoiding the most. We're, and I'm the same, probably the same as you, and or I've been a victim of it myself, self-inflicted. Like I've done it to myself. Avoided tough conversations with people that needed a tough conversation. Just avoiding putting together a system because we keep having the same problem again and again and again and again. I'm avoiding looking at numbers or looking at a document or looking at a problem job that needs to be dealt with before it goes out the door.
yeah,
And then guess what happens? Can you imagine what happens?
yeah, just amplifies itself.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and one thing that's been really helpful for me has been, I don't know who shared it with me, but we don't avoid the thing, we avoid how the thing makes us feel.
Oh,
And I found that to be a really interesting reframe in that we're not avoiding doing our taxes. We're avoiding the feeling that comes up when we have to do our taxes, which is like tedious, annoyance, irritation,
hmm,
or like confusion. We don't avoid the conflict. We avoid the stress that comes with, right, or the anticipation of having the thing. And when you can start to see some of that, it's like, oh, that's what's happening.
right.
How do I chip away at this and like address that a bit differently?
Very wise, right? That's a great way to think about things. So, can you say that quote again for people that are listening and maybe even taking notes? By the way, folks, that was a hint. Write down this cool quote.
Yeah. So we don't avoid the thing.
All right.
We avoid how the thing makes us feel.
We don't avoid the thing. We avoid how
And
the thing.
I think what's been helpful for me has been there are things that we don't like to do and we just start to say like, oh, I'm just not that kind of person, or like I can't do those things, or I hate doing X. It's like, oh, I hate doing my numbers, or I hate doing hard conversations, and that starts to just become our operating system, and we're like, oh, I'm just not good at it. But when you see it for what it actually is, it's like, oh, I just don't want to deal with the stress of this thing. It's not that I'm just bad at it. And it
Just
might
don't
just
want to
be,
deal with.
yeah, you might just need some practice. Because I
Right.
think a lot of these things that we avoid, we just haven't done enough of to feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just have to jump in, you know,
Yeah.
the, the first time you've ever done something. And what's interesting in art, and even when I was doing things in the trades, it was exciting to do something different. When somebody says, "Hey, can you do this?" I'm like, "Oh, we've never done that before. Let's give it a try." And yet in our business, we're like, "Oh, I don't want to go look at that P&L again. I don't know what it's going to tell me."
Yeah.
Overheads. I don't want to do my overheads. And I think part of that is because it feels like we're always looking in the rearview mirror when I'm focused on being forward facing. I want to drive this company forward. Why am I going to look at an end of job report? That job's already done. Those mistakes have already been made. That was in our past, as opposed to looking at it. So we, again, going back to our analogy, you can look up over the hill and see where the pitfalls are going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, success leaves clues, and so does failure. So like doing that retroactive look back at whatever it is, like that's how we learn ourselves, whether we're training our teams or just like themes that we're noticing in ourselves in the business.
Yeah. And so the reason that people aren't taking a day off is because they feel like they can't take their finger off the pulse of the business. They don't have reports, or they just don't have certainty that when they turn around, it's going to still be running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. You brought up certainty. I've had a couple conversations recently with people and just thinking about it a lot myself, that uncertainty drives a lot of, or the fear of uncertainty impacts us a lot more than we think. And I think part of the conversation that we're having is, how can you bring a little bit more certainty to the business? And systems is a big part of that.
Right. SOPs, systems. We just want that predictability. Nobody
Which,
wants to be caught by surprise, right?
And which I think like sometimes that's just a knowledge gap. Like, what systems do I need to bring in? But I think it also can be a bit like delegation. They kind of know they need to bring the systems in, but there are things that get in the way of doing it, whether it feels tedious.
Busy. Yeah, people are busy. They're like, I don't have this all sounds great. I'm listening to this on my headphones, but I'm busy. We got this job. I got to get the change orders out. We didn't get samples back from the architect or the designer. I don't have time. And the challenge is that unless you and I and everybody listening breaks the pattern, it's never going to happen. Actually, Fyfe, let me remind everybody, I got a thing. Can I do a thing?
Oh yeah.
I've got an open offer to everybody who listens that I'm going to buy their coffee for them. And I guess it's not really a fancy coffee, because I'm going to send them a $5 gift card. If they send me just a picture, a selfie, you probably took selfies at your daughter's birthday this weekend, right? And then you probably took selfies when you and your college pro buddies were hanging out at the wedding. Not hard to take a selfie, but take a selfie of yourself doing your paperwork, working through any of, people who listen to the show get a bunch of free downloads from us, right? Just take a picture of yourself at the coffee shop with your coffee and send it to me, and I'll send you the $5. I'll buy your coffee. What I'm trying to do is force myself into their day so that they get the benefit of exactly what you're talking about. You got to change the inputs to change the outputs.
Yeah. And I think that's such a hard thing to do, because even if it's uncomfortable right now, being so busy and not taking a day off, in some ways that can be more comfortable than the discomfort of trying something new, or like saying no and creating space in the day to do this work. Because we're just habituated to it. So it's almost easier to do what is already painful than the thing that's uncertain.
Yeah, I think you just knocked a bunch of people in the head right there. Right? Somebody said to me once that I have to choose my pain. I have to choose the pain of doing it right now, or choose the pain of the consequence of not doing it right now. And, that's for future Dom, future Chandler. I think if that was on Friends, we'll let future Chandler deal with that.
Yeah.
But we got to deal with it. We're always future focused. We're doing estimates right now that aren't going to happen for 3 months, maybe in some cases, especially for the mill workers, 3 years. So we're used to dealing in that future. But if we don't go and change the way we're doing things, and just find little tools like listening to this episode with you and getting inside your brain, the idea doesn't even come in there. Then that implementation, like putting it in place, that's the hard part. The accountability to do it today and then do it tomorrow and then do it the next day.
Yeah. And I think that's where you need that loop breaker. Like, we're kind of in the loop, we're in the cycle right now, and you need something, whether it's the coffee from you or like some reinforcing thing might be
Yeah.
outside of you, it might not be, but to like insert itself and break the cycle for just a minute. And I think that's one of the things that I found, again, really helpful just personally, but also with clients is often we think we need to have some big, huge change to break the loop. Like, oh, I need to implement this system and that's going to set me free. But I need 40 hours to build this system that will help me break the loop.
And where am I going to find 40 hours? I'm
And it's
already
like,
working 80 hours a week.
and it's
Yeah.
like, how do you create evidence for yourself that you can create the loop, break the loop in like a really small, simple way? And it might
Mm,
be take a photo of you doing
I got to do
paperwork
that.
for 5 minutes. And that's evidence that you have broken the loop. And then the next time, maybe it's 10 minutes of paperwork.
Yeah.
And then I have my own coach. That's a loop breaker because I'm on their calendar. They're on my calendar. I have to meet with them. And that breaks the loop for me to get outside and like think differently.
Yeah.
Might be an
It's,
accountability partner, like whatever it is, but you need things to like do that for you.
there's I'm supposed to be interviewing you, but I'm going to share a quick exercise that we just did in the foreman training. So we run this thing called Foreman and Supervisor 101 training. And this pattern break was just to get the owners to take a day off. And a day off sounds great. We were just talking about me going fishing, but it doesn't just appear magically. And so we back it up as coaches. We're like, take half a day. And then immediately our coaching exercise is I want you to write down all the things that were your answer to I can't because. Well, Dom, that'd be great to take half a day off, but I can't because. And then write those things down. Boom, 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 boom. Go ahead and everybody listening, except for those people driving or on a ladder or operating machinery, don't write it down. Just think about it. But if I said to you, I want you to take next Friday afternoon off, I want you to be done at 11 o'clock. See how I just nibbled a little extra time there for them? I want you to be done at 11 o'clock. Well, Dom, I can't because we'll just write those things down. I can't because we don't have this. I can't because we don't have this. Like, nobody knows how to lock up. Nobody knows how to open. Nobody knows how to. Da, da, da. Okay, there you go, my friends. That is your list of to-dos. Fyfe's already smiling. For those of you who can't see this on YouTube, Fyfe knew where I was going with this, but that's the list. Now just prioritize the list and pick away at it. And I think what you're talking about, Fyfe, is we forget or we're not held accountable to making sure we do item 1 and then 3 and then 7 and then 25 because we all have the list. We know what to do.
Yeah. And I think it's a meta skill to learn how to create the accountability structures for yourself.
Hold on a second. It's a meta skill. Say that again so we
it's a meta skill to learn how to create accountability structures for yourself.
What does that mean? Like, give it to me in common man.
Yeah, like if you learn the skill of creating accountability for yourself, that will pay off in so many different ways that you can apply in so many situations.
Right.
So if you can create that structure of, if it's an outside coach, awesome. If it's another business partner or business partner, and you can actually hold each other accountable, awesome. Or if it's a friend, whatever that is, but setting systems up to hold yourself accountable to doing that non-urgent, important work, that's what sets you free.
Yeah. Being a business person who just happens to run a trades company, whether it's a cabinet shop, a millwork shop, a cabinet installer, painter, like you and I came, arguably my first trade was being a framer. And then I was a painter. And then I was a framer again. But yeah, back to the beginning.
Yeah. And what I loved about, like, to take it back to student painting, what was so hard in the first season was, I think we launched in May or something.
Right.
I think in June, there was an offsite for all the franchise owners, and there was no cell service for 2 days. So like you were forced to do that. That was embedded in the structure of that for us to test our crews that they would be independent for just 2 days.
Oh, I see. To keep your crews independent of you.
Yeah.
Right.
And for us to learn and develop
our
business.
Different because when I started as a student painter, there just was no cell service. It didn't exist. I carried quarters so I could hit the pavement. So that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah.
There's cell service. I mean, of course there's no cell service. These are,
Which for me is like just a different generation, but that's a totally
oh,
different
TV
leap
was
too.
black and white, and I had to pull the horse over to the payphone
Yeah.
and crank the side. Don't worry. Yeah, we all understand.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that is training people. I'll tell you, one of the things that I find in coaching meetings, and we have to do this very early in the coaching relationship. When we talk about I never take a day off, so what? And then you said we get used to that level of being needed. We get used to that. I'm always busy. I'm always on. Everybody knows they can get me. I'll do anything for the business. Well, that sounds very heroic, but it's suicidal. And so, how that shows up in coaching is we start to coach a business owner who's the greatest person in the world, really has the weight of the world on their shoulders, trying to take care of their team, make promises to people in the field, in the market, and then fulfill those promises with beautiful work. But what happens in the coaching meeting is they keep getting interrupted. Well, that doesn't fly. That takes one meeting for us to attend to. Now, sometimes it takes a couple more meetings for it to stop. But the rule is when you're in a business coaching meeting, you don't answer the phone, you don't answer text messages, and you don't get interrupted. That is a full stop game changer. For that alone, it's nice to have just one conversation with meaning and just clear your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, I don't know if it's just because I've had a couple of conversations recently, but there's a lot of risk too in being on all the time, like being that bottleneck person. Risk in that, like if you get sick, what happens to your business? If a family member gets sick, I had a couple of conversations with guys where their family member got sick and they kind of got pulled out of the business.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like, I think everybody knows that they want to get out of it, but like really building towards that time freedom is also like a safety thing too. Not just like it would be nice. It's like, no, this is actually pretty important for a risk factor too.
I had on that note, I had a spicy meeting this morning with a family business, as so many of these companies are, where one family member is trying to get the other person to move up the organizational chart, to stop being more technician and move into, administering the company and managing the company. And the feedback that they were sharing on the call was, but if I get out of the field, what else am I going to do? And that's because their identity is wrapped up in being the guy in the field. In this case, it's a guy, like the guy in the field. And that's why, on the show, we always say, I want you to be a business person who just happens to run a shop. I don't want you to be a cabinet maker who makes cabinets. And it doesn't matter what your trade is, but I need to give you a promotion. Move up the organizational chart, because we're always going to limit ourselves if we stay at the level we're at.
Which I think again brings in that uncertainty piece. It's like if you're not clear on the value and how you provide value in that next level, that's not clear. There's a lot of uncertainty around that. It's a huge question mark. Whereas if I'm on the tools, I know exactly what value I bring. I can see it. It's very tangible. But until that clarity is made, that next level, it like bridges the gap a little bit, I think.
So let me put that to you as a coaching question. How do I get clarity on what the next level looks like for me?
I mean, talk to other people would be the simple, fastest ways. Like who else is in that role,
right,
that you could talk to and be like, how's your life changed because you're in this role now? Because I think a lot of we always look at the potential downside of moving up, as well as like if that's your focus and there's resistance to moving up, I'd be looking at what's the hesitation or fear, and what's the potential upside that maybe you're not noticing or that could be there for you. But exposure just to talking to other people, and then being more granular and breaking down what is value, how does that get translated in the business? How could you bring more value than you are today in this role to a different role, and like just kind of breaking down some of the perspectives that might be had.
The value, it's interesting, and there's such a simple explanation for the value that business owners bring. Is when you move from being somebody on the tools, and it doesn't matter if your tools was doing the books or doing installs. It just doesn't matter. But when you move into running the business, you start to get paid from the neck up, not the neck down.
Yeah.
Right. And there really is nothing more powerful than the power of our mind and what we can do. We can think amazing things. We can put great plans in place, and then we can start to move towards them. But if we're always stuck just pulling buckets out of the well to fill another hole somewhere else, it's just you're going to be stuck constantly. And I found myself in that situation too, just constantly in firefighting mode, just living day to day and really not growing for the future of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Hopefully people took a lot of notes here.
I love these conversations.
Yeah. What's if let's go look in the future right now, or in the past, I guess. Imagine that you were yourself today, but you're looking back at Fyfe when he was running the student painting business. What would you have said to yourself there at that most stressful point? You got 2 jobs starting, 1 job that just finished, a customer that hasn't paid you in 60 days. The paint store is not extending you any more credit, and somebody stole your ladder. What would you be saying? By the way, that was my life.
I've had days like
this
that. Yeah, that's very real.
Somebody melted the aluminum just to get $15, and it was a $600 ladder.
Yeah.
Horrible.
This too shall pass. It's like, this is a period of time that's testing you.
Yeah.
And if you want it to be, it can be a period of growth.
Oh, so glad you said that. Yeah.
Because I think sometimes when we're in it, it's really, really hard. And whether we like to admit it or not, there's a bit of a victim mentality, like, oh, woe was me, like this sucks. And it sucks. And what's the gift? How am I growing through this? What are the opportunities that are opening that I can't see yet? How am I growing as a person that will contribute to others? So it's just knowing that it is a temporary period of time, and that likely you'll look back at that with fond memories in some ways. Like, I look back at some of the worst days that I had, and I laugh now with some of my friends.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What, like, funny story. The one guy I was at the wedding with, my last job I ever did as a painter, he was another franchisee, awesome guy, both really good painters, both of us. And he fell and broke both of his wrists on our final job that we ever did together. I was just like, of course.
Last job. Yeah.
But like, I learned a lot through that, if I choose to look at it that way. And I think so much of it is choice with how we view
It's
what
attitude.
we're up against.
Yeah, that's the attitude. What am I going to do? I never want to have a day like this again. What has to change?
Yeah.
Right. What has to change? If somebody's at that stage in their business right now and you're listening to the show, thankfully you're here, because you can hear this conversation with myself, and Fyfe is just all in support of you. But if you're having that kind of day or week or month or year, what has to change? And I think everybody knows what I'm going to say already. The person who's there to change it is you. You don't have to have the same bad day again and again. You can change it. Change something. Change something.
A really powerful, it's really hard to do, but like putting the mirror up. And like, how am I responsible for what's happening right now? And taking that level of responsibility stings at first, but I think that's one of the things that sets people free too, is now you can be in action with the change that you want to make once you've taken responsibility for the current state. Because if it's still outside of you, like, oh, it's the customer or it's the employee or it's the whatever, it's really taking ownership, putting the mirror up and be like, how did I contribute to this? How am I complicit in creating this? And how do I want to change it? I'm at choice to change it. And then you go do
changing it. And then changing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop talking about it and go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great conversation, Fyfe. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's interesting that you and I both come from student painting. You from the after cell phones era, me in the pager and payphones era, but still the same industry. Somebody wants to find you and find out more about you or just continue the conversation. How do we do that?
Simplest way would just be Fyfe at fyfebarraclough.com. I updating my website and stuff right now, so there's no real website to check out, or just LinkedIn, Fyfe Barraclough on LinkedIn.
Nice. Well, and you'll be linked there through our podcast as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate having you on, Fyfe. It's always great to talk to another person who came through the fire and brimstone of student painting.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Have a great day. Well, 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 I want to say thanks to Fyfe again for being a guest on the show. And, you know, a long time ago, I asked you guys for your opinion. And the opinion was there too many dad jokes in the episodes? And so I removed the dad joke section. You find it here, stuck, whimpering and crying at the end of the episode. And it made me think of a joke that I'm not supposed to tell you because you don't want them in the episodes anymore. But did you know that if you remove your funny bone and boil it in a pot of water with some spice, it becomes laughing stock? Can't even do that with a straight face. I love these things. Listen, I want to thank Fyfe for being a guest on the show, and also remind you, I think the professional development tools that line very nicely up with what Fyfe was talking about is the time management videos that are all on the Cabinet Maker Profit System YouTube channel. You should go there. There's, we're going to do 52 weeks of time management tips, 52 weeks. So we talk about the accountability that Fyfe and I were just talking about. At the very least, that's going to be delivered to you every week as we upload them. And we've been doing a very good and diligent job at that because we have a system. We put a system in place. So go ahead and take advantage of that system. And again, they're time management tips just for cabinetry. So hopefully that level of being like specific helps you. But the other thing is the flow chart, the decision tree that myself and my team of coaches use when we're sitting there listening to a smart and powerful and capable business owner who's saying, I got to get to the next level. Well, we don't just randomly pick a place to start. We have a formula. We have an SOP. We have a decision tree, just like you would when you're talking to an architect or a designer, or maybe trying to problem solve a piece of machinery. So we use that same kind of tool in business coaching. If you want a version of what we actually use, then just let me know. Let me know by sending me a text. And you guys know the cell phone number. It's 315-903-7853, and download any of those that you want. All right. Thank you for checking in, folks. You know that this podcast and this YouTube channel is just a very sad, flimsy, thin excuse for the day that I really look forward to, where you and I can sit across the table from each other like humans, like real people, and have a warm cup of coffee or a room temperature glass of wine when I say it that way. All right. Thanks for checking in, folks. We'll see you on the very next episode.